Is up, everybody? Blood Moon Bobby here, and Nikon has announced their new camera, the Nikon D850. In case you aren't familiar, the Nikon D800 series cameras, they're kind of their multi-megapixel cameras made for guys like portrait shooters, landscape shooters, filmmakers, and yeah, they've just released their, as of now, highest resolution camera, the D850. So let's take a look. They've been building this up for quite a while, at least the last month, and they built it up as here 8K time lapse, 45 megapixels, and yes, as you can see, 45 megapixels of extraordinary resolution. At least that's what they say, but still 45 megapixels. I mean, damn. I mean, I've been starting to get into cosplay photography and filmmaking, and I would so want like a camera with that level of resolution. Probably won't be able to get that because this camera is $3,300. So yeah. But seriously, this is like for people out there, like the D850 is like Nikon's answer to Canon's 5D Mark IV, which, I like shooting with the 5D series of cameras. I've shot with the 5D Mark II when I was volunteering for a high school cross-country camp, and they let me use their cameras. So, but yeah, I'm going off the one thing I'm kind of about is it's going to be using a Nikon design, which is pretty cool. BSI, or back illuminated sensor, a full frame sensor, which it's a CMOS sensor, so that means it's really good at collecting light. Although my one concern is I've heard that backside illuminated sensors, it's kind of hard to recover detail from light crushed shadows and highlights. I mean, yes, you can't save shadows and highlights from every raw file, but when you can, it's a lifesaver. Lifesaver, not saber. And this sensor, depending on who you are, it's not going to have an optical low pass filter. So if you're a portrait shooter and you're taking pictures and people are wearing clothes with lots of threading, you're going to have to remove the moire in software like Photoshop or Nikon's Capture NX2. Let me just get this out of the way before we go any further. Is there any information? So 9 frames a second. With a little asterisk. It's actually 9 frames per second, if not 9 frames per second, if I can talk today, if you get the optional MB D18 battery brick, which I'm pretty sure, a lot of people who are going to buy this camera will get. But if you just go it alone, it'll still have a pretty respectable 7 frames per second, which, holy crap, like 45 megapixels, that's, I can't do math. Hold on. Hold on a second. Let's just calculate like how many pixels that is. 45 times 7. 3. You're looking at over 300 megapixels like per second. That is insane. I mean, granted, it's not Nikon D5 level where I believe that camera is 13 frames per second. But for guys like me, that's amazing. I honestly would actually go for this because I'm looking for a camera that can do both sports, but I also want a lot of resolution for things like portraits and landscapes. So that's actually pretty good. I think if you're a starting photojournalist and you want to get this, you should be able to do both your portrait shots and if you're going to a sporting event or a Trump protest. And let's see, 8K and 4K resolution time-lapse movies with new sharpness and detail. We'll get into more detail in a second. So tilting touchscreen, just like any current Nikon. Focus shift, I'll have to look into that. Outstanding battery performance. I heard the battery performance is supposed to be, I think, like double what it was on the D800. So that should be good. 4K Ultra HD. This is pretty surprising for me. 120 frames per second, 1080p video, which, you know, for cinema shooters, that's pretty amazing. So now you no longer have to do that trick in Premiere Pro where you take 60 frames per second 1080p video and you have to slow down. So now you could pretty much do that in camera. And ISO 64, which, you know, you're about to see the ISO numbers, which, again, for a camera of this resolution is pretty amazing. So, you know, it's a 64 here, but there's a lot of fine print. So, yeah. And on that note, 4K videos can be shot at 30, 25, and 24p. So, you know, 30p is really good for sports. You know, I've shot in 30p. With my Nikon D7000. Would have been nice if it was 1080p though. But of course, you know, 24p is there for, you know, us cinema snobs. So, yeah. Oh, and here's where the ISO, it should give more detail because I know there's even more fine print. So up to 102,400. Which, you know, I'm pretty sure that number in itself, everybody's just like, oh my god, no, 120, no, that's too high, it's gonna be so noisy. But, you know, again, when, you know, the camera companies do this, that's just a testament. That's usually a sign of good low light. So, you know, if you're like me and you're shooting, you know, baseball at night at ISO 1600, which for a camera like this, 1600 should be clean, so you know, you could imagine, you know, how nice that would look. Because I honestly, I don't know. I know there's people that shoot at like, you know, 6400 ISO, but, you know, in practice, it's better to stay around like the 1600, maybe 3200 range. So I'll have to look into that whole backside illuminated sensor. Like for me, like let's see what Nikon says. There's a number for backside illuminated, no, Marvel and the enhanced light gathering efficiency, faster data readout in true color. And I believe this is specific, although I think this applies to any like CMOS sensor where, you know, back in the, like when digital like cameras were starting off, we had CCD sensors, and the problem with CCDs is, you know, you would have the sensor, I'm going to move my hand, you know, like let's say you would have the sensor here, but on top of that would be all the data, like wiring. And so with CMOS sensors, it's flipped around, so the pixels are able to gather more light. So, you know, obviously, you know, if the sensor can gather more light, that's really good. But again, I've heard backside illuminated isn't really good for if you're trying to recover detail from like clipped shadows and highlights. So let's say, for example, even with the questionable lighting, let's say I wanted to take a selfie right now, okay? And my curtain is really blown out. So, you know, I would like to see if, you know, if I can go into Lightroom and turn down the whites sliders to try and recover some detail. So, yeah, let's see, is there anything more? 64, or this is pretty amazing, ISO 32, which I'm trying to think, when would, like, anybody use that? I mean, you know, I mean, this is coming from a guy who like shoots with the D300S and D7000, where like I don't even like going down to ISO 100 because ISO 100 everything looks kind of dark. I mean, I usually only reserve that for like the brightest, like the absolute brightest of scenes, you know, where something like a ISO 200 would be too bright. So, yeah. Say what you will, Nikon. The film enthusiasts are still gonna say nope. So, is there anything more? 153 focus points, just like on the D5 and D500, and shoot down to low light to -4 EV, so you can even go further than moonlight if you must. So, I mean, that's amazing. 153 focus points. I mean, granted, it's probably not going to be like the D500 where literally the focus points take up the entire x-axis. I'm trying to... Yeah. but you still got a lot of focus points to pinpoint. If you're shooting basketball and the guy's going up for the basket. So you have more AF points to track them down. So I gotta say that was pretty amazing. It was so weird how we went from the D4 and D4S, which had 51 AF points, and now we're like 153. It's just like, Jesus, Nikon, you guys grew fast, So, let's see, is there more? As I said, MB D18 battery pack for 9 frames per second. I mean, look at this, like 51, like the buffer is 51 on consecutive shots for 14-bit RAW and 100% for 12-bit. That is insane, I hate to keep comparing it to like my much older Nikon cameras, but on my D300S, I shoot uncompressed RAW and it only goes up to 17. I mean, that's almost doubled what the D810 has, going from 28 to 51. So I guess Canon was like taking note. I mean, not Canon. I'm sorry. I mean, Nikon was taking notes from Canon, like when they came out with the 5D Mark III, and they were like, "Hey, look at us! No, not the 5D Mark III. I mean, like the 7D Mark II, where it had, I believe it was like a 20 megapixel game, and it could shoot 10 frames a second. So, Nikon engineers were probably like, okay, we got to do something. And, we're going to have much more resolution. We really need to speed up this processor. It's probably one of my favorite features. I mean, I really wished Nikon thought of this before. I mean, you have a choice of 3 sizes for RAW files. I mean, 45 megapixels, 25 megapixels, and 11.4 megapixels. I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, as a guy who has to, like, post images on social media at my job pretty much, within the hour of taking them, like, that would honestly be so cool. Not only can you process them down for a smaller size so they come out faster, but it's still a pretty decent resolution. I mean, 11.4 megapixels, and that's considered small. I mean, I'm still trying to, like, get over how, in the, just a few years ago, small resolution would be like, 9 megapixels or, even 3 megapixels. So, yeah. So, I'm pretty sure it's going to have the 100% viewfinder. Why would they get rid of that? It has the highest magnification for a full-frame Nikon, not for Nikons in general, which is 0.75 times. But it's still pretty great. So, let's see. Another thing, almost forgot about this one. Silent photography in live view, as shown in the picture. So if you're shooting a wedding and they're saying their vows, you don't want that shutter to go, you don't want that. So it looks like you get 2 modes of 6 frames per second of 45 megapixels. I gotta say, if that was the actual max amount of photos, I still would have given this a pass. I would have thought, I wouldn't even think that we have gotten to that point in photography where we could take that many megapixels a second. So mode 2, 8.6 megapixels, which decent amount. DX image area, 30 frames per second for up to 3 seconds. I mean, does it take 90 photos? I'm not really sure, but still, I mean, you got the touchscreen, 4K. Do people really use this Nikon ME1 microphone? Maybe for the mass market consumer, but the pros, I don't know about that. But obviously, you can plug in any mic. So if I wanted to take my Zoom H1 microphone, I could just stick it on, plug in an aux cable into the camera, and be good with that. So. Yeah, let's see. So again, 120 frames per second. There's some fine print there. Record 4 shoot at 120p, playback at 30 and 25p, and then 5 times. So does that mean you can do that in post? I guess. Or is it that you can choose the different playback speed. So playback, I don't know. I like to think it's a case of, you know, even if you shoot slow-mo video, you can still have the choice of going down to a more realistic, like 30 or 24 frames a second. But see, so focus peaking, it's good. Select high, medium, low sensitivity. That's interesting. Focus peaking, and you can choose how sensitive the focus peaking is. So, you know, to make sure you're not over focusing. Touch to focus. Yeah, okay. Hey, that's cool. Now here's the juicy part for time-lapse photographers. So, you know, you can take 4K time-lapse, 8K, shoot up to 9,999 stills using that silent live view mode. So no shutter vibration, which, if you want to get accurate, they probably mean minimal, because, you know, at the end of... Well, actually, wait. If it's in the live view mode, then technically speaking, you know, it's done through the electronic shutter. It's not done through, you know, the mirror slapping. So, you know, maybe they do have some legitimacy to that. So, let's see, what else is there? WRA10 transceiver. Wow. How you can wirelessly control speed lights, you know, kind of typical stuff that, you know, we'd expect from Nikon cameras. What exactly is focus? Oh, okay. So focus shifting is focus stacking. So you can set the focal steps from 1 to 10 for up to 300 shots, and you can easily identify using third-party software. So I don't really dabble in focus stacking. I mean, I know what it is. I just, you know, don't usually use it when I do close-ups. But yeah, that should be pretty cool. Live view, AF fine-tuned, quickly and reliably fine-tuned. I mean, somebody comment below and tell me if Nikon's live view has gotten better. It's not as horrible as some people will tell you. Like, it's not like D300S bad where you constantly have to mash the AF on button. But, like, on my D7000, it works, but it's not, like, super reliable. So, let's see. Film digitizing adapter. You know, it's like one at a time. So I saw earlier a link from a website saying that the D850 can act as kind of, you know, a film scanner. So it's kind of interesting. I mean, is it as simple as, like, you know, if you were to take your... I'm going to pull out my D300S, and I unplugged my power cord. Hold on a second. Get this plugged in. You know, is it as simple as if you were to take, you know, your D850, pointed at the photo, and, I mean, you have all this equipment here, the film digitizing adapter, so, I don't know, I guess. So, did they put, using the... Okay, this is one thing I really don't understand about the D800 series. So, you know, on the lower end Nikons, you either have built-in Wi-Fi. I know, like, the older ones, you plugged in, like, an adapter into the USB port if you wanted to connect it to, like, a smartphone. And the D5 has, or at least the single-digit series cameras, use a kind of chunky adapter that you kind of screw into a proprietary port. But this one, let's see, using the optional WT7 wireless transmitter... Oh, wait a minute. Let me actually look at this. The WT... So is it that chunky adapter? Oh, wait. They went back to using the one where you have to screw in from the bottom. Okay. It honestly would have been nice if they used something like a WT5 where all you have to do is you take this chunky adapter and you plug it into the side. I think that would be a lot more convenient, you know? So, illuminated buttons. They've been doing that since the D4. It's taking the XQD cards, which, as a guy who shoots CF cards, on one hand, it sounds kind of disappointing. It's like, why isn't Nikon using CFast or CF cards anymore? You know, that's kind of the standard professionals use. But from my personal experience, I mean, it might differ for others. At the end of the day, you're still plugging in a card into an adapter. You're not going straight into your computer like an SD card. So, so in terms of, you know, plugging it in, it's not really that much from the CF. Although, granted, I don't think, you know, XUV, you know, adapters, they're not as, you know, they're not as dime a dozen as CF. But, you know, if you can still find the adapter, use it. I've heard XQD write speeds for movies and photos are, you know, pretty amazing, much faster than CF and SD cards. So, I mean, yeah, if I was going to buy a D850, I'd probably also pick up maybe like a 16 or 32 gigabyte XQD card. I mean, especially if you're going to be shooting like 4K video, like, you know, you'll want those really fast write speeds so you'll get more, so the camera can pick up more detail. And of course, you know, magnesium alloy body with dust and water drop resistance, of course. Has 108K RGB sensor, so it's better for color. Square size, I'm guessing like if you want to post your photo on Instagram and you want to optimize it for Instagram, you have that option. Picture control system, of course, and oh, here's the battery. So yeah, 1840. I mean, the D800 had like 900 shots, D810 1200, and now 1840. So 1840 shots. It's not, maybe not D5 level of battery life, but still pretty cool. And of course, oh wait, so yeah, you can actually use the SnapBridge app for Bluetooth, but unfortunately, SnapBridge works with Bluetooth, so you can't do remote shooting. So if you were to like take your iPhone and you wanted to see what's on the screen, you know, what your camera's saying, you can't do that. So unless you use that WT7 adapter. Oh wait, actually it has built-in Wi-Fi. I'm sorry if I'm sounding like I didn't really do research. I kind of wanted it to be very sort of first impressions based. So yeah, you can connect to the SnapBridge app if you'd like. I'm sure what is that software? Where is it? You know, if you wanted to use the WT7 to use Camera Control Pro 2, that will probably work better. But I think in a pinch, you know, using the Wi-Fi will work a lot better. I mean, or at least it's more convenient to use the built-in Wi-Fi. Like, I think for my needs, I would probably stick to that. So, yeah, it's a pretty impressive sounding camera. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to go test the D850 like at a Best Buy. I mean, if I got the opportunity to like photograph this thing, like, you know, hell yeah, this sounds pretty amazing. You know, because like, especially like I could see myself using a D850 for, you know, portrait photos and videos. I know, like, you know, legit photojournalists are going to want to stick with the D5, which has, you know, a much higher, you know, frame rate, but still, you know, 7 frames per second and 45 megapixels, that's still not half bad, you know. I mean, my D300S shoots 7 frames per second when I use the rechargeable batteries. And I had an article here from Metapixel where Nikon said that the D850's ISO 25600 photos have the quality of the D810 photos at 12,800, so it's a stop better in comparison. I mean, it's pretty believable. I mean, you know, if it's from Nikon, I mean, they're saying it for marketing reasons, but I wouldn't be too surprised if you know, when the reviews of the D850 come out and people are saying, and, you know, hey, look at that, my photos look a stop better when I shoot at higher ISOs. I mean, are you going to be shooting at like 25,600 in low light all the time? In like, you know, pretty dark situations, yes, but, you know, most of the time. even if you stick with like a 1600 or 3200, you should still be pretty good. You know, the photos should still look clean. So, oh, I guess my stomach can't take. Oh, one other thing I should also point out. So, of those 153 AF points, 99 of them are cross type, so they're sensitive to both horizontal and vertical positions, and it has a dedicated AF processor. So hopefully it is a lot better, because I like the AF performance of my two current Nikons, but they could certainly be a lot quicker. I mean, since this is coming from the company that made the Nikon One system, which I know I heard might be getting discontinued, it would be really nice if their DSLRs had, you know, not that their current ones are bad or anything, but, you know, I still get, you know, those shots every once in a while where it looks defocused. So I think that's about it. So the D850 sounds like a pretty amazing camera. I mean, again, if you're into more sports or photojournalistic type photos, you're probably going to want to stick with your D5s. But if you want to do like, you know, wedding, video, film, landscape shooting, portraits, or even if you just need something in between, like I could certainly use, you know, this kind of a camera, you know, that has both high, you know, resolution and, you know, a high frame rate. Then I think this will certainly do you good. So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to Blood Moon Bobby. I'm going to be working on a DuckTales sort of podcast this weekend, and I'm also hoping to do more videos going into next week. So yeah, thanks for watching.